Meet John. 5 years ago, his savings account hit zero, not low. Zero. He was 47 years old, earning $84,000 a year, and he had nothing set aside. A layoff, a busted transmission, and one emergency root canal had wiped him clean. Most people in that spot do one of two things. They panic, or they pretend it's fine. John did neither. He did the math instead. Today he has $91,000 saved. He did it on the same income, in the same city, in exactly 5 years. No side hustle empire. No crypto lottery ticket, no rich uncle. Just a plan he could have started at 25 or 55, and it still would have worked. Here's what nobody tells you about rebuilding from zero. The starting number never mattered as much as the system, and the system is boring. Repeatable, and almost nobody follows it. This is the exact plan John used. Every number is real. Every step is one you can copy this week. Let's be clear about the hole John was standing in. He was not unusual. He was average. The typical American household in 2026 holds about $8,000 across all its checking and savings accounts. 8,000, that's the median, the person standing right in the middle. Under 35, that number drops to around 5,400, so when John hit zero, he wasn't some cautionary freak. He was a stumble away from where millions already live. But here's the part that stings. The average savings balance is $62,000. Average. That gap between $8,000 and $62,000 isn't a rounding error. It's a small number of households pulling the whole line up while most people sit near the bottom. The personal savings rate in America right now is about 4.5%. That means for every dollar that comes in, most people keep 4.5 cents. John kept 4.5 cents too. That was the problem. Before you dismiss any of this as obvious, hear this. John didn't fix his savings by earning more. He fixed it by changing what happened to money in the 90 seconds after it landed. Here's what the data shows. Let's keep this fair, because comparison is the only honest way to see a plan work. John didn't rebuild in a vacuum. He had 2 coworkers, same office, same rough income band. Meet Carla. Carla was 32, sharp, and out-earned John by $9,000 a year. Every raise she got, her lifestyle got one too. Bigger apartment, newer lease. The good gym. 5 years later, Carla has about $6,000 saved. On more money than John. Then there's Diana. Diana, 34, actually tried. She read the books, she opened the accounts, but every few months an emergency or a vacation drained the pot back down. Diana ran hard and stayed in place. 5 years later, Diana has $11,000. She's not lazy. She's just running a plan with a hole in the bottom. 3 people, same city, same income band, wildly different endings. John finished with $91,000. Carla with 6, Diana with 11. The difference wasn't income. The difference wasn't discipline in the dramatic, white-knuckle sense. The difference was a system that removed the need for willpower entirely. That's what we're going to break down. 5 steps, 5 years. One boring engine that did the heavy lifting while John slept. Here's what nobody tells you about step 1. You cannot fix a number you refuse to look at. John's first move wasn't saving a dime. It was an audit. He printed 90 days of bank and credit card statements and read every single line. Not the summary. Every line. Most people never do this because it's uncomfortable. It feels like reading your own diary written by an enemy. But the 90-day audit is where the real money hides. John found 4 streaming services he'd forgotten. A $16 app subscription from a phone he no longer owned. A gym at $39 a month he'd visited twice in a year. Added up. John was leaking $240 a month to things he did not use or notice. That's $2,800 a year. Vanishing. Silently. Here's the mental tool. Every recurring charge is a tiny automatic decision you made once and never revisited. The audit is you finally revisiting it. John canceled $240 of monthly leaks in a single afternoon. He didn't earn that money. He stopped losing it, and that recovered. $240 a month became the first fuel for everything that followed. Now here's where most people go wrong, and it's the difference between John and Diana. Diana saved whatever was left at the end of the month. John saved first. Before he could touch it, this is step 2, and it's the whole game. The moment John's paycheck hit, an automatic transfer moved money into a separate savings account. Same hour, every payday, before rent, before groceries, before the internet had a chance to sell him something. Most people believe saving is about discipline at the moment of temptation. It's not. It's about removing the moment of temptation entirely. You cannot spend money that already left the room. John started small on purpose. His first automatic transfer was just $150 per paycheck. Twice a month, $300 a month moving itself, no decision required. Run the numbers, $300 a month plus the $240 he'd stopped leaking. And John was already redirecting over $500 a month in month one. On the same salary he'd had when his account read zero. Nothing about his income changed. The plumbing changed. Let's talk about where that money went, because this is step 3, and most people get it exactly backwards. John did not put his emergency savings into stocks. He did not chase a hot tip. He put it in the most boring container available. A high-yield savings account. Here's the number that matters. The national. Average savings account in America pays about 0.38%. Almost nothing. But high-yield savings accounts in 2026 are paying up to 4.5%. Same FDIC insurance, same instant access, same boring safety. The only difference is the bank. Think about what that gap does. On a $10,000 balance, the average account pays you $38 a year. The high-yield account pays about $450. Same money, same risk. Same you. One choice, made once, worth over $400 a year and climbing. Here's what actually happens when you leave money in a big traditional bank. You are lending them your money at almost 0%, and they are lending it back out at 7%. You are the product. John moved his savings to a 4.5% account in an afternoon. That single transfer will pay him thousands over the life of this plan. It required no skill. It required knowing the gap exists. Here's what nobody tells you about step 4, and it's the one that quietly did the most work. John raised his savings rate every single time his income went up, not his lifestyle. His savings rate. This is the latter, and it's the exact opposite of what Carla did. When John got a 3% raise, roughly $2,000 a year, he didn't upgrade his car. He upgraded his transfer. His automatic savings went from $300 a month to $400. When a small bonus landed, half of it went straight to savings before it ever felt real. The rule was simple and brutal. Every dollar of new income gets split before it touches your lifestyle. Most people do the reverse. They get a raise and their spending rises to meet it within 1 month. Economists have a name for this: lifestyle inflation. It's the reason someone can earn twice as much and save exactly the same. Carla is proof. She made more than John every single year and finished with a fraction of his savings. Because every raise became a nicer version of the same life. John's raises became freedom instead. By year 5, John's automatic transfer had climbed to $700 a month. Same job. He just refused to let his spending grow faster than his saving. Now let's break down the boring middle, because this is where Diana kept failing and John didn't. The middle years of any 5-year plan are where motivation dies. There's no dramatic before and after yet. There's just the grind. Month 18 looks exactly like month 17. This is where most people quit. Here's what John understood. The plan was designed so that quitting was harder than continuing. The transfers were automatic. The leaks were already sealed. The account was already earning 4.5%. To fail, John would have had to actively log in and turn things off. Inertia, which had been his enemy at zero, was now working for him. Most people think building wealth requires constant heroic effort. It doesn't. It requires a good system set up once, and then defended from your own worst impulses. John's only job in years 2, 3, and 4 was to not touch it, to let the automation run. To resist the upgrade, the impulse, the very reasonable-sounding reason to pause the transfer just this once. Every time he resisted, the machine kept feeding itself. That's the secret the finance gurus skip. The hard part isn't starting. It's doing nothing while the boring plan works. Let's put real numbers on those middle years, because this is where the compounding quietly showed up. By the end of year 1, John had about $6,100 saved. Not life-changing, but it was $6,100 more than zero, and it was earning interest. By the end of year 2, he crossed $14,000. Notice the jump. He didn't just add another $6,000. The interest was now working alongside the deposits. By year 3, John passed $24,000. Now the 4.5% was paying him over $1,000 a year on its own for doing nothing. His money had started earning a paycheck of its own. Here's the part people miss about the middle. The account doesn't grow in a straight line. It grows like a snowball, slow at the top of the hill, then faster and faster. John's deposits stayed roughly the same, but the total climbed quicker each year. Because the interest kept stacking on top of interest. This is compounding, and it only rewards the people who stay in the game long enough to see it wake up. Most people quit in year 2, right before it gets good. Let's talk about the emergencies, because they came for John too. In year 3, his water heater died. $2,000 gone in a weekend. In year 4, a medical bill for $1,400. This is the exact moment that sank Diana every single time. An emergency hits. The savings drain and the plan resets to 0. Here's what John did differently. He'd split his savings into 2 buckets from the start. One bucket was the emergency fund, sized to cover 6 months of essential expenses, about $18,000 for him. The second bucket was his long-term rebuild. When the water heater died, he drew from the emergency bucket, not the rebuild. Then he did the critical thing. He treated refilling that bucket as the top priority for the next 2 months. Then returned to normal. The emergency was a detour, not a demolition. Most people don't separate these buckets, so every emergency feels like total failure. It isn't. An emergency fund that gets used isn't broken. It's doing its job. The failure is having no bucket at all and letting a $2,000 repair go on a 24% credit card, where it quietly triples. Speaking of that credit card, let's break down the trap that keeps most rebuild plans permanently stuck. The average credit card interest rate in America is now north of 21%. Think about what that means next to a savings account. John's savings earned 4.5%. Credit card debt charges 21. If you're saving at 4 while carrying a balance at 21, you are not building wealth. You are bailing water out of a sinking boat with a smaller bucket than the leak. Here's what nobody tells you. For the first stretch of John's plan, his real priority wasn't the savings account at all. It was killing the $1,100 of credit card debt he was carrying at 22%. Every dollar he threw at that balance earned a guaranteed 22% return, because it stopped a 22% charge. There is no savings account on earth that beats paying off high-interest debt. So John's real order of operations was this. First, a small starter emergency fund, about $1,000. Second, destroy the high-interest debt. Third, build the full 6-month emergency fund. Fourth, everything else. That order is the difference between a plan that compounds and a plan that leaks. Let's zoom out and talk about the number that actually predicts whether you'll rebuild. Because it surprised John too. It wasn't his income. It wasn't his interest rate. It was his savings rate, the percentage of income he kept. When John hit 0, he was saving about 4%, right at the national average. By year 2, his audit and his automation had pushed that to 15%. By year 5, he was saving 22% of every dollar he earned, same salary the whole time. Here's why that one number matters more than any investment return. In the early years of rebuilding, your savings rate is the engine and the interest is just a passenger. Think about it. 22% of an $84,000 income is over $18,000 a year going into savings. No realistic investment return on a small balance comes close to that. A person saving 4% and earning 10% in the market will lose, for years, to a person saving 20% in a boring savings account. The savings rate does the heavy lifting long before returns ever matter. This is the fact almost no finance channel will tell you because it doesn't sell a product. Your savings rate, not your return, is what rebuilds you. And here's the counterintuitive twist. The thing that took John 5 years to fully understand. The plan didn't work because he was disciplined. It worked because he stopped relying on discipline at all. Every finance video tells you to want it more, to hustle harder, to summon some inner reservoir of grit. John tried that first. Back when his account read 0. It failed within a month, the way willpower always does. What actually worked was the opposite. He built a system that ran without him, then got out of its own way. The automation didn't care if he was motivated on a Tuesday. The high-yield account didn't need him to feel inspired. The sealed. Leak stayed sealed whether he was strong or weak that week. Here's the line worth remembering. Discipline is what you need when your system is broken. A good system is what frees you from needing discipline. John didn't become a different person over 5 years. He became the same person with better plumbing. That's the whole secret. The people who rebuild fastest aren't the ones with the most willpower. They're the ones who need the least, because they engineered it out of the equation. Let's give John's plan a simple frame, because a plan you can't remember is a plan you won't run. The oldest rule in budgeting is 50, 30, 20. 50% of your take-home for needs. 30% for wants, 20% for savings and debt. John started nowhere near that. In his 0 year, his savings slice was 4%, not 20. So he didn't try to leap to 20 overnight. He climbed 1% at a time. Each raise, each sealed leak, each windfall nudged the savings slice up and the want slice down. Here's what nobody tells you about the 50-30-20 rule. The exact numbers matter less than the direction. A high earner who lets wants creep to 40% is in more danger than a low earner who saves 10. Carla technically had room for a huge savings slice. She just kept spending it on wants that reset every year. John's slice grew because he defended it. The rule is a compass, not a cage. Point the arrow at savings and walk, even if you start slow. Let's actually run Carla's math against John's side by side because it's brutal and clarifying. Both started the 5 years at roughly 0. John saved an average of about $550 a month across the 5 years. In an account paying 4.5%, Carla saved, when she saved at all, maybe $100 a month in a regular account paying almost nothing. And she drained it twice for lifestyle upgrades. Same city, Carla earning $9,000 a year more. Run the numbers and the ending isn't close. John finished near $91,000. Carla finished near $6,000. That's an $85,000 gap, opened up by two people on nearly identical incomes. In the exact same economy over the exact same 5 years, nothing about the market did that. Nothing about luck did that. The gap is entirely explained by what each of them did in the 90 seconds after payday, repeated 120 times. Most people believe the wealthy pulled ahead because of some secret investment. Usually it's this instead, a boring gap in savings behavior compounded quietly until it's too big to ignore. Now let's bring in a fourth person, because she proves something important. Meet Maya. Maya is 28, earns $52,000 a year, less than everyone else in this story. By every measure, Maya had the least room to save. But Maya did one thing right, early. She opened a high-yield savings account, 4.5%, and set up a single automatic transfer. Just $75 per paycheck. That's it. No audit, no ladder, no complicated system. 5 years later, Maya has about $23,000, on the smallest income in this story. Here's the lesson Maya teaches. The floor for this plan is almost nothing. You do not need John's income or John's discipline to start. You need one automatic transfer into one account that actually pays interest. Maya beat Carla, who earned nearly twice as much, by doing one boring thing consistently for 5 years. Most people wait until they have margin to start saving. Maya started before she had margin. And the margin appeared. That's the order that works. The account comes first. The comfort comes later. Let's get concrete about the mechanics, because this is where good intentions die. John used exactly 2 accounts, and the setup took 1 afternoon. Account 1 was his everyday checking, where his paycheck landed and his bills got paid. Account 2 was a separate high-yield savings account, at a different bank entirely. That distance was deliberate. The savings sat. Somewhere he couldn't see it every time he opened his banking app. Out of sight, out of reach, out of temptation. The automatic transfer was scheduled for the day after payday. So the money moved before any bill was due. If you can see your savings next to your checking, you will eventually rate it. John made his savings slightly annoying to access on purpose. 2 clicks became 2 days, and 2 days is usually long enough for an impulse to pass. Here's the mental tool. Friction is your friend when it protects you from yourself. Most people optimize for convenience and wonder why the balance never grows. John optimized for a tiny amount of inconvenience, and it guarded 5 years of progress. Now let's kill the biggest objection, the one you're probably thinking right now. I don't have anything left to save. John thought that too, at 0. But remember what the 90-day audit found. $240 a month, already leaving his account for things he didn't use. That wasn't money he had to earn. It was money already gone, just to the wrong place. For most people, the first savings don't come from earning more or suffering more. They come from redirecting the leaks that are already happening. The average household wastes hundreds of dollars a month on forgotten subscriptions, impulse fees, and services they'd cancel in a second if they saw the charge. You probably have a version of John's 240 right now. The question isn't whether you can afford to save, it's whether you can afford to keep leaking. Start with the leak, not the raise. Let's talk about windfalls, because they're where most rebuild plans quietly bleed out. Over 5 years, John got a tax refund every spring. He got 2 small bonuses. He got a birthday check from his mother once. Most people treat this money as free, as fun money, as permission to spend. John had a rule for windfalls, and it never changed. Half goes to the plan before it feels real. The other half he could spend guilt-free. The tax refund of $2,000 became $1,000 into savings. $1,000 for whatever he wanted. That rule mattered because windfalls are psychologically dangerous. They feel like a bonus round, disconnected from your real money. But a dollar is a dollar. Over 5 years, John's windfalls alone added roughly $6,000 to his total. Money that Carla spent entirely and never saw again. The people who rebuild fastest don't treat found money as different money. They treat every dollar the same, whether it arrived on payday or by surprise. Let's return to the acceleration. Because years 4 and 5 are where this plan stops feeling like a grind and starts feeling like a gift. By the start of year 4, John had over $36,000 saved. The interest alone was now paying him roughly $1,600 a year. Think about that. His money was earning more per year than his entire savings balance had been at the end of year 1. That's the snowball waking up. By year 5, John's transfers were larger. His balance was larger, and the interest on top was larger still. All 3 forces pushed in the same direction at once. The account crossed $60,000, then $70,000, then closed the year near $91,000. The last year added more than the first 3 combined. This is why quitting early is so tragically common and so expensive. Most people bail in the flat, boring stretch of years 1 and 2, and they never reach the part where the machine starts paying them real money. The reward for staying isn't linear. It's backloaded, and it's enormous. So what does John's finish line actually look like? $91,000 built on an income that never broke 6 figures, in a city that isn't cheap, starting from a balance of 0 at age 47. He has a 6-month emergency fund that lets him sleep. He has money earning 4.5% while he does nothing. And most importantly, he has a machine that will keep running for the next 5 years. And the 5 after that, whether he thinks about it or not. Carla, on more money, has $6,000. Diana, who tried harder in the dramatic sense, has $11,000. The gap between them was never talent or luck or income. It was a system, set up once and defended. So here's your one question. The next time someone tells you they can't save on their income, ask them what happens in the 90 seconds after their paycheck lands. Because that 90 seconds repeated twice a month for 5 years is the entire difference between 0 and $91,000. If this showed you something you didn't know about your own money, subscribe to Desmond Wealth. We break down the hidden math behind the financial decisions you face every day. Make the plan that matches your reality, not someone else's sales pitch.